Excuse me. Must be them. Left-wing Democrats are, who vote for them. We had a primary election today. No, in my district, there was no election. There were no Republicans primarying each other. Their chances of winning in this district are small, not impossible. Changed a lot. This is a district I won when I ran. I think I won it each time. Maybe not the first, but I do think I won it. But in any event, there are no Republican primary ballots here in this district. I don't think it was a Democratic primary here either. So, but there are about 16 of them all throughout the city. A couple of Republican primaries that are important, and a couple of sort of. There's no such thing as a moderate Democrat. Progressive Democrats versus AOC radicals. Let's put it that way. Okay, so maybe they divide on funding the police, welfare for everyone. They agree on that, but the more moderate Democrats would say, don't defund the police, whereas the AOC Democrats would say, we don't even need police because everybody should be committing crimes and getting away with it. Well, we're going to start with the Biden fix, which has now become so darn apparent that I don't know how we avoid this. I don't know how we hold our head up in the community of nations as a nation of laws and have out there all this evidence that that has been put out there by whistleblower Gary Shapley, who was an IRS supervisor of this case and a IRS agent, a career IRS agent. Not even sure he's one of these guys. Not even a Republican. But in any event, it's hard to find any partisan spin to this guy. According to him, this case was fixed from beginning to end, and he was told by the U.S. Attorney Weiss, U.S. Attorney David Weiss, who is constantly being referred to as appointed by Trump. He actually was also appointed by Obama and was something of a holdover. So this isn't like it's Trump's best friend reviewing the case. But according to the IRS agent, there are 4 or 5 witnesses along with him that can show that both Weiss and Attorney General Merrick Garland are lying. And Weiss, for example, sought to indict Hunter Biden on felony charges for evasion of taxes in 2014, which is the year he got the large amount of money from Ukraine. And he told his team that he couldn't do it because the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Matthew Graves, a Joe Biden appointee, refused to go along. This is after the Attorney General had testified that Weiss was empowered to get indictments anywhere he wanted and would not be opposed. And then, of course, now the statute of limitations has expired, and he walks away free of one of the more serious charges. According to Shapley, at least 5 other witnesses heard Weiss's words. And he got similarly stonewalled on an attempt to bring an indictment in California. And Weiss testified I mean, and Hunter and Garland testified that Weiss didn't need any outside OKs to charge Hunter. So these are, if you take a look over here at the camera, you see those 5 witnesses. Those are Shapley. Shapley is the IRS supervisory agent. You see him there in the far left corner. Darrell Waldron, Tom Sobocinski, who is the FBI special agent in charge. Rashia Holly, who's the Baltimore FBI assistant special agent in charge. Sean A. Weedy, Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, the chief of the criminal division, and Shannon Hansen. These have all been identified. All what we know about Shapley. The other 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have been identified as witnesses. I can't say for sure these are the witnesses that Shapley says will corroborate the 2 indictments that were turned down, but I believe they are. And the Speaker of the House has said that should it turn out that the whistleblower's testimony is supported, he would then commence impeachment proceedings against Garland. And they've been really needed for some time. Garland is the same guy who wants to go after parents as terrorists for complaining about the way their children, are educated in school, not bothering to tell you that his son-in-law makes money off what do we call this, gender identification, or training young people in gender identification, gender confusion, gender brainwashing, and they make a fortune off that. So the real question, I think now, beyond the actual crimes committed by the Bidens, where almost another piece every day comes out, is who's doing the fixing? Who's doing the fixing? There are the 5 witnesses again. Remember, these people or people like them are going to be produced as public witnesses. I don't know if that's going to be Comer's committee, or it's going to be Jordan's committee, but expect to see them shortly. And the main targets of their testimony will be those 2 men right there. David Weiss, you can see on the left there, and Merrick Garland, former federal judge, on the right. Weiss, I am not sure where Weiss fits in terms of any kind of criminal charge. It would seem to me whatever criminal charge would be involved with Weiss would be fairly marginal. And as a prosecutor, you'd rather have him as a witness against Garland if he supports what he said to the 4 or 5 agents. Of course, if he flips around and says he never had the conversation with the agents, then I think you're going to have a possible trial of him. Now you ask me, well, who will bring this? Is there anybody in the Justice Department with the courage to bring these obvious cases against the Attorney General, possibly the special counsel? I mean, the Attorney General's perjury is about as clear as it can get. The Attorney General is the older man, looking rather sour. Probably, who knows what he's thinking about, the next lie to tell or whatever. Joe Biden's defense to all this, of course, is Just no. And he still maintains that he doesn't have any knowledge of his son's foreign dealings, even though there are 8 witnesses, a tape that we played for you a couple months ago and replayed, in which he talks about having read a New York Times article that contains a description of his son's foreign dealings, his son's own comments about his father being next to him, extraneous proof that the son and father were together that day. And then witnesses like Bobolinsky and Gilliers, who say that he was very, very involved in his foreign dealings, the son's foreign dealings, his inclusion in the China deal, the son's admission explaining the entire RICO case, that 50% of all income over 30 years went to his father. The bank records showing some of that, and I suspect when you get all the records, more of it, but certainly millions of it. So the case is coming together as an extraordinarily strong case without anyone to prosecute it because the Justice Department's crooked. Yesterday he was questioned on the way out. I'd play it for you, but it's very hard to hear it. We could try. He was questioned by Jackie Heinrich of the Fox News. And she asked, did you lie about never speaking to Hunter about his business dealings? Because he's been telling this lie from the first moment that I revealed Biden's criminality, which would be back in 2018. But he had been saying it earlier as things came up about his son's ethics. And his answer was a very simple, hard to hear, but no, which is plainly untrue. He knew all about it. And there's one piece of evidence after another that shows that. So where do we go from here? Well, it's going to have to be presented. It's going to have to be presented by the House to the American people. Because I do not understand how the Justice Department would ever bring this case. And nor do I see Garland appointing an independent counsel who would bring this case. The person who picks a special counsel is the Attorney General, unless, of course, he's picking it on himself, and then it should probably be his deputy. But, I mean, he'd go up and down that department. I don't know where or how you can find an honest man. In any event, the noose is tightening. The evidence is overwhelming. And the need now is for a prosecutor, an honest prosecutor. I don't know. Until we get a Republican president, we may not have a prosecutor who will bring this case. We may not. We'll have to see if we do. Joe is really also, as we go through this, Joe is really, really falling apart, isn't he? God Save the Queen recently with another one of those. Where the hell did that come from? Well, it came from a demented mind. The same guy who a couple months ago was looking for Jackie Walorski, the Indiana congresswoman who had been killed in a car accident. He had just set up a memorial for her a few days after. And here he was, and he's saying, Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? And then has to be told that Jackie is dead, even though he knew Jackie was dead. That was frightening. Or when he showed up in Cambodia and thought he was in Colombia. He does things that are very dangerous, like calling for regime change in Russia, only to have the White House take it back. He says we're going to defend Taiwan. His State Department says we're not. or at least we're not committed to. The Air Force Academy, he fell flat in his face. Earlier in the year, he stumbled a couple of times. They're all outlined by Piers Morgan in a column here in the Post. If you want to take a look at how your president is falling apart in front of the eyes of the world. This is being covered not here so much as elsewhere. Ted, has this picture ever been in the Times? I don't know.
This is. Oh God,
that's when he fell at the Air Force Academy. Has this ever been in the Times?
Should we play it? We have that video.
Yeah, I think we should play it and
Wing, 10 shot.
Do you have it?
Yes, Mayor. We just played it.
Oh, okay. So you got to see it. And is the
Getter audience got to hear your nice.
No, but is the Getter, is that on? Is the Getter microphone on?
It's coming in loud and clear.
Well, it's not on though. I don't know how it's coming in loud and clear. We get a lot of complaints from Getter. Nobody else. And of course, part of it is that they're not part of Restream, and I wish they would get off their backsides and get it done. It would be very helpful to all of you, not just my live stream or podcast, but all the rest. This is where you're going to get your news in the future. This is where you get your news now. You don't get to see things like that on the other channels. Well, it looks like the Russian coup revolution got temporarily resolved over the weekend. The Wagner forces, led by Yevgeny Prigozhin, there, if you want, let's show them. Let's show them the very aptly named and very aptly attired and facially featured Yevgeny Prigozhin. Would you put that on, Ted? I have it right here. That's Mr. Prigozhin. Quite a looker, huh? He's quite a looker. I don't have my monitor on, so I can't see what you guys are seeing, but I assume you're seeing Mr. Prigozhin. He is the head of the Wagner forces. Well, what are the Wagner forces? The Wagner forces were a group that was set up sometime before 2014 by Putin and Prigozhin, who was a former petty criminal, then better than petty criminal, then extremely violent criminal, and then sort of a hitman, it looks like, for Putin. Well, Putin helped him organize these mercenaries who would do things, and Russia would have deniability. For example, during the 2014 invasion of Ukraine, he could say these were, volunteers who were fighting to save the Russians in eastern Ukraine. Of course, what they were mercenaries who were highly skilled murderers and killers, probably more skilled than the Russian army itself, or it sure looked that way during the recent war. And I think that's part of what caused the problem. Particularly after their recent victory in Bakhmut, that could not be obtained by the army, and they were able to do it. I think they got a little full of themselves, as maybe we really run things around here. So Prigozhin somehow decided to turn around and head toward Moscow. Some say with 25,000, some say with 8,000. Who knows? Who knows? I hope you all got. Did the people on Getter get to see Mr. Prigozhin?
If they can't from there, no.
Well, I'll show them Mr. Prigozhin here. I mean, you got to see this guy to get a sense of why maybe he scares people a little. He's also got one hell of a criminal background, just regular criminal background. So he decides all of a sudden that he's not getting the support he should get from the Russian army. He doesn't like the Minister of Defense. And he probably thinks his people are carrying a much bigger load and being much more successful in the war, which has some truth to it. So he turns around and heads toward Moscow. He says it's to make changes in the military, although it does seem like a challenge to Putin, a direct challenge to Putin. It sure as heck is an indirect challenge to Putin, however you look at it. And then he's convinced, after he takes Rostov-on-Don, which is in Russia, kind of a city that would not be particularly pro-Putin, I wouldn't think. It's on the border. It's close to the Ukrainian border. But all of a sudden, there's a change of mind, theoretically brought about by the president of Belarus, Lukashenko, who is a very strong ally of Putin and wouldn't be in that position if it weren't for Putin, because he probably lost the last election and put him there. And he gives sanctuary to Prigozhin and any of the Wagner forces who want it. Putin gives amnesty, in essence, to the regular forces, allows them to integrate themselves into the Russian army or to go home and retire and not cause any more trouble. But he says, that sounds really good and nice, except he then, and there are many faces to Mr. Putin, which we can take a look at. Here we are. Here's the many faces of Mr. Putin. They're basically all one face, right? I've met Mr. Putin, and I can tell you he's a very serious man. He's a very serious killer. And if you read carefully, I mean, originally it sounded like he was going to give them all kind of a pass, and then he made it clear not the leadership. Well, Prigozhin is part of the leader. He is the leadership. His whereabouts are still unknown. He's under criminal investigation. The word was that he was going to be protected by Lukashenko in Belarus. I don't see Lukashenko protecting him if Biden says the word. I mean, if Putin says the word. The Minister of Defense, Shoigu, who is the Sergei Shoigu, who is the object of Poroshenko's ire, has been reinstated or reaffirmed as the Minister of Defense. He appeared on Monday with Putin and other security officials. So the troops, Prigozhin's troops, have general amnesty. And Prigozhin theoretically is headed for or is in Belarus, although he hasn't been seen, as far as I know, yet. And the troops have amnesty. The leaders, Prigozhin and his top generals, leaders, are under criminal investigation. And I would say that chances are that he is not going to have a long life. And the question is, how vulnerable is Putin? Vulnerable enough so that Prigozhin would have taken this action. Not so vulnerable that it worked, or caused serious difficulties. Well, we don't think it caused serious difficulties. These things have to play out over a couple of days because you're not going to get the truth, right away. You're just not going to get something that amounts to the truth immediately. Well, that brings us to our own situation in the U.S. What are we going to do with Biden? Here we are, faced with a possible, what might have been over the weekend, a coup in Russia. It turned out it wasn't. And we have a president who really does not seem capable of handling things like that, does he? I mean, he's getting worse and worse. He's more and more kind of out of it. Now, do we have the piece with him with Prime Minister Modi?
We do.
Where I don't know. I think this is a joke, but I don't get the sense of humor with a guy that's under investigation for $31 million in bribes. Serious investigation. Shall we play it?
Anyway, I started off without you. And I sold a lot of state secrets and a lot of very important things that we shared. Now, all kidding aside, look, we're teaming up to design and develop new technology that are going to transform the lives of our people around the world.
Well, I mean, I guess that's a joke, right? I guess. I'm guessing that's a joke. Now, I'm not sure if it is, but I'm guessing that it is. Now, you want a real joke? This is a real joke. And this is the reason that there's confusion.
We can play her clip when you want.
This is the reason why there's real confusion as to whether to get rid of him, because there was a poll that came out this weekend where 49% of registered voters have a negative view of the vice president. 39% of those say it's very negative. And only 11% have a very positive view. Altogether, 32% have a positive view. This is the lowest unfavorability for a vice president in the history of the NBC poll. And that's, of course, President Harris, which is what he refers to her as, President Harris. Let's show a picture of her charming laugh first. And now, shall we play her some examples of her linguistic ability?
Exhaust, no diesel smell. The bus has Wi-Fi and even USB outlets next to every seat. I mean, come on, imagine. You can charge your phone on your way home from work. That's good stuff.
Well, I mean, that, I think, gives you an idea of the concern that people have that she could take over as president, except we have a president who's demented, who has mental illness. Would she do as much damage as him? What's the biggest damage that he's done? Afghanistan? People killed there, didn't have to get killed. Would she have pulled out in any more sensible way than he did? It's possible. It's possible she has enough common sense left to know that you take out the civilians before the troops. It's also possible that she's not compromised by China and therefore would not have given up the the air base 400 miles from China, I would have. Would you have given away the $85 billion in arms to the terrorists, which makes them now like the third or fourth best armed force in the world? I can't tell you that. I don't know. I do know that the Constitution has a 25th Amendment that basically says if a president is not capable of carrying out the duties, mentally incapable of carrying out the duties, his cabinet really has to bring that to the attention of us and get him examined. And they haven't done that. And I think that's unpatriotic and shows that they don't love their country. They just love power. He certainly is in need of being examined under the 25th Amendment. And despite the fact that she sounds like a Lula bird, I don't think Lula bird qualifies for mental illness. Just silly, and she almost sounds infantile, actually, when you listen to her. Let's look at the laugh one more time, Ted. And the howling that goes on with it. I don't know what that is. It could be just normal behavior that I'm just not used to, or she could be spaced out. I don't know. But we don't know for sure. If we're not sure about Biden, then we don't have ears to hear and eyes to see and a brain to think.
What's worse, the fact that we have a senile president or a crooked, corrupt president? That's a tough one. For
I would say if it were just crooked and corrupt, like the usual kinds of bribes, although disgusting and terrible and awful, and he should be put in jail, mentally incompetent would be worse. It would have more to do with national security. Here, his corruption overlaps with national security because it involves China. So I would have to say it's his corruption, because he clearly is unable to make choices that protect us against our biggest enemy, and he's given away an awful lot that we can't get back. So this isn't the usual corruption that we deal with in politics, which has to do with greed and money and businesses, and which is terrible. I thought it was just Ukraine. I thought it was terrible. But Ukraine's about greed, but China and Russia taking money from them, I mean, that's almost like treason, right? So I would say in his case, it's so magnified that the worst situation is the corruption, because it's led to selling out the country. The whole transgender issue is over the top now. I think Ted and I experienced that on Sunday night, and Dr. Maria, when we were at the dinner, the Lincoln Day dinner in Detroit, Michigan, and President Trump made a really excellent speech, covered the sort of the entire area of issues. But the one that got the most attention was his saying that he would protect the children against the Democrats making them apparatchiks of the state and taking them away from the parents. And that is certainly what the Democrats want to do. They don't even make too much of a pretense to the contrary. The Attorney General of New Jersey, with the full consent and support of the governor of New Jersey, another Biden Democrat, Murphy. At one point, I thought he was the worst governor in the United States. He might still be when I looked at his record a year ago. He is now halting and changing policies in New Jersey that require teachers to notify parents if their child requests a change in gender identity. Or put another way, he's going to create policy so that the children do not have to tell their parents that they want to change their gender. Do you realize what that means? That means your children belong primarily to the state. They're no longer your children. They're your children if the state wants them to be your children. But when an important decision like should they remain male or female has to be made, that decision can be made with the apparatchiks without you knowing about it. Now, I would say that is sounds like something that would be done in Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia, or certainly in Red China, not in the United States. This election is about that, because this is what Democrats want to do all throughout the country. They want control of your children so that they can brainwash them. It's not enough that they start brainwashing them, in college. They've moved it certainly back to high school. And now they're trying to work on them when they're 3 and 4 years old and putting doubts in their mind as to whether they want to be male or female or remain the way they are. This isn't what America wants. This is a small but determined group of infiltrators who are bringing this about, called Democrats. You really have to reject them for the good of the country. They should be rejected uniformly, so they have to form a new political party, change the odious name Democrat, which was the institution that had the most to do with slavery of any in this country. One would think they would want to change the name Democrat, since they want to change every other name that has any association with anything involving slavery or indigenous peoples, or no political party had more to do with protecting slavery, continuing many of the practices that stem from slavery after slavery was over. I mean, it's all Democrat Party. Its name is tarnished horribly by it, much more so than any of the statues that they demand be taken down. And with regard to this trans issue, I will report the good news that you might think it's over, but Bud Light had its worst week last week. Its sales were down an additional 28.5%. The week before, it was 24.4%. This was the single biggest decline in Bud Light, thanks to Dylan Mulvaney and the attempt to use Bud Light to brainwash people about changing their sex. And then we have a problem you knew would happen. You knew this would happen. And let me show you a picture of this woman. She's a convicted murderer, and the name is going to slip a little here. This person was born David Chester Warfield, and now she is Dana Rivers, and she's a transgender activist. On November 11 of 2016, she murdered a lesbian couple and their adopted son at their Oakland, California home. So she's a 3-time murderer. Now, she's been sent to a woman's prison. Yeah, you got it. Let's show her picture again. Or his picture. Or her picture. She is extremely violent. And she is diagnosed as hating women. And she's in a women's prison. And she is biologically a male. And whatever else she is, She claims to be a female. California law, as you would imagine, SB 132, the Transgender Respect Agency and Dignity Act, authored by Senator Scott Wiener, enables dangerous trans women to enter female-only prisons. Now, are they crazy? Or they just want to see people die? This is a 3-time murderer, a bloodthirsty murderer who hates women, theoretically. This is what the diagnosis is. And they stick her in a woman's prison because some ridiculous law says you have to do that, or that the prisoner gets to choose their prison. I mean, what is this, Airbnb? This is absurd. I mean, why do you vote for these people? Is there anybody out there that votes for Democrats? Well, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to hear from my friend Kirk, who I had a nice long conversation with yesterday about my own affairs, economic, and you know, he really is a very wise man, and I get the benefit of that, you know, for nothing. And so could you if you called the number he's going to give you and we're going to give you, and just ask for a consultation about the idea of switching over to silver and gold, switching over to silver and gold, either altogether or partially. If you have a 401k, putting some of that in silver and gold to hedge against inflation and to protect yourself. A lot of people have done it. The market has gone up greatly, particularly in silver, but there's still plenty of room. There's still plenty of room for growth, or at least according to the experts, there is. So let's listen to Kirk and write down the information and give him a call and get it applied to you, and then see what you want to do. So let's put that on now, and then we'll be right back. Faith and family, freedom and finance are 4 things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver, while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. Insanity. It's a part of a way to dominate us, dictate to us, boss us around. Do we have a shot of our good friend and artist Scott Lebedo?
We do.
Doing his
we have the video, Mayor.
"Give Me Pizza or Give Me Death." This when they come back, we'll play this. Everybody's back. Well, I was telling the people on Getter that there's a dispute going on in New York, and Mayor Adams is right in a big proponent of shrinking our carbon footprint. So he wants to do away with coal and wood ovens, which are used very often to make pizza. Some of the best pizza are made that way. The reality is, as a scientific, follow the science, that this is a ridiculously picayune contribution to the carbon footprint. One analysis says you'd have to burn that stove for 310,160 days. That is for 849 years, just to equal what John Kerry puts out in a year. Puts out, meaning, I don't mean his body, I mean his plane. I think I mean his plane. Maybe it's his body too. He is a strange looking dude. But a very distinguished artist, patriotic artist named Scott Lebedo, who did a great deal of inspirational work during September 11 and thereafter, did a demonstration in front of my old home. I recognized the gate really well, Gracie Mansion, and then proclaimed, "Give me pizza or give me death. This is New York." So shall we watch Scott, who hopefully is going to make some, gosh, they have a picture here, which I'm going to show you when we come back of a pizza coming out of a coal-fired oven, and it's getting me hungry. I must say.
Screen? Is the screen on?
Yeah. So let's see if we can see our
Boston Tea Party. Well, this is the Boston, New York. This is the New York Pizza Party. Give us pizza or give us death. Give us pizza or give us death. Give us pizza or give us death.
There you go, Scotty. There you go, Scotty. You know, next week, I might as well announce this now a little bit in advance. Next week, we're going to have a 4th of July week. Since they have these things like, Pride Month and the Secretary of what is she or he, the Secretary of transgender person in the administration, or whatever he or she is secretary of, they want to have a Pride year. I was thinking we should have a 4th of July month or Independence Month. So during Independence Month, we'll have Scott on. Maybe right now it looks like we're going to be doing we're going to do a real big 4th of July special. We're going to do it right where we can see fireworks up and down the shore. We're organizing that now, and we'll announce it a little later in the week. And then we're going to do a couple of other specials for the 4th of July. So get ready.
Yeah, we're excited for that. We're excited for more.
We're going to overemphasize patriotism because it needs it. It needs it. Maybe you can have your kids stay up a little late and listen, because we'll tell some patriotic stories too. I am a history buff, and I think Ted would acknowledge that my knowledge of history is genuine.
Hi.
And Maria as much as me, and in certain areas more. Other areas I have more.
You're about to be on with the mayor. What do you want to talk about?
So Jesse Waters is taking over for Tucker. I think he's on right up against us, but I don't care. I like Jesse. Don't like Fox anymore. Really love Jesse. Remember him when he started with O'Reilly. He's a good man. He's funny. He's smart. It's a good choice. If there's any chance of Fox putting it back together again, they made the right choice with Jesse Waters, and I wish him really, really well. I like that young man quite a bit. So we're going to see if we have a.
All right, Mayor, we're going to take our first call.
The
Hold on,
Wall
go
Street.
ahead and give that story to the mayor when we put you on, okay?
So who are we talking to?
Okay.
Is this in Cleveland? Is this Cleveland?
Yes, Mayor. In a minute, we're going to go to Cleveland, Ohio. Just give us 10 seconds.
Okay. We're going to Cleveland, Ohio, not far from where we were in Detroit. We had a good time in Detroit. We had a good time at the dinner. Maybe we'll tell a few stories about the Trump dinner.
We absolutely should.
Trump gave a great speech, I have to say.
Yes, he did. So now we have Olga in Cleveland. Olga, you're on with the mayor.
Olga, how are you? Well, of course this doesn't work. The first one you give me never works.
You can't hear?
No. Maybe you can put it up with that one of those things.
Olga, are you there? Okay, can you speak up?
It isn't Olga. It's not Olga. It's this stupid thing.
Okay, can you hear?
No. No.
Nothing at all? Hold on. Stay on there, Olga. We're going to get this resolved. Now, Olga, can you hear Olga?
Hello.
Hello. You can put it down just a little okay, Olga, that's very good.
Can you hear me?
I hear you perfect now.
It was
Yes.
a sport. It was a
Mayor.
sport.
Yes, ma'am. How can I help you?
Yes. 1981, I have arrived for vacation to Cleveland to see Museum of Art
Uh-huh.
from Poland. The next thing was elected Reagan. Then was martial law in Poland. I stayed in the United States legally because I was trapped. So I'm on vacation till now, right? You call it vacation. What I'm saying, what I've seen change United States as I was before in Poland, meaning if I speak correctly, what I'm saying.
You're speaking very well, Olga, I must say. And you're speaking very eloquently. So go ahead.
Thank you. I'm shocked. I'm heartbroken. My son right now is in Simon's Foundation, astrology PhD genius who went through schools in Cleveland, and it's still he does not understand. Mayor, help me. He does not understand what's going on.
Tell me, you mean, I think I know, but for the benefit of the audience, tell me what you find very shocking about what's going on in the United States.
Yes, exactly. It's not to be personal. I understand.
No, you can be personal. I don't care. I just want you to honestly tell us because I believe you have a unique perspective. My daughter-in-law came from Latvia, but she was a very young girl and she only saw the very end of communism. But her family, so I know quite a bit about this. And I have a tremendous love for Poland. You can't imagine. Largely because of the Cold War and the unbelievable strength of the Polish people and the way they retain their Catholic religion. And I love the Polish. So tell us your perspective, because very few Americans will have your perspective, but they need it.
Absolutely. Even Polish people who arrived with me need it because they were post-socialist. So I'm very unique. It does not mean being Polish, understanding Polish American, since I am American citizen. It does not mean being Polish in America, meaning they understand it. So what I'm calling about is socialism and brainwashing is very dangerous and drips down to generation. It's very dangerous.
And do you see that going on in the United States right now?
That's exactly what I want to say. I am frightened. I am basically heartbroken. But I think why it's going on? Because what happened in Poland, people didn't have food. When I left in 81, I was studying painting. I was artist. I was just doing good. And I saw in Poland what happened was people didn't have food when Solidarity came up. So what woke up people in Poland? No food on the shelves, and second thing was very determined was professors and people working class. I don't want to divide people. I'm saying working class, which is solidarity. I was from Sopot, Gdańsk, which is where I was. So if you connect intelligentsia, and working people, no food, then you have revolution. I just cannot see how it can happen here. That's what scares me.
Well, all I can tell you is try to organize as many people as you can to get involved in the 24 election, because it'll be a critical election for us as to whether we continue as a socialist country or it's still early enough on the road to socialism for us to change it pretty quickly if we get a president like Trump, who is, extraordinary at executing, getting things done. Look at what he got done in his first term. The only other president that I've seen move as effectively and as quickly as him is the one that I'm sure you love and I love, Ronald Reagan, whose statue in Warsaw gives me chills when I see it. So thank you, Olga, for sharing this with us. And please keep calling in, or have some of your friends also call in who've lived through communism, so that they can tell the American people that this isn't some benign philosophy. This is a murderous, godless, it's really, I mean, if you believe in Satan, it's satanic. If you believe in evil, it's evil. Well, you certainly have to believe in evil, because there are evil. How do we get a Hitler if there isn't evil? Well, I mean, the communists have killed as many, if not more, because they've had more time to do it, than Hitler. And they've also participated in their own forms of genocide. They have no use for anyone other than the propagation of socialism and communism. I mean, no one has killed more than the Chinese that I can think of, 80 million people. Really to just frighten people into believing a alien, irrational philosophy that your common sense rejects.
All right, Mayor, let's go to our friend Joel. All right, Mayor, let's go to our friend Joel checking in live from Israel.
Joel, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. How are you tonight?
It's really amazing. We hear you better from Jerusalem than we did Olga in Cleveland.
I guess it's because I'm using an Israeli, using a phone that Hunter Biden paid. I'm using a phone that Hunter Biden paid for $300. He got me a private phone so that I would not do any more court filings against him.
Well, you think? Okay. Do you think, Joel, we're beginning to see finally, slowly but surely, the beginning of the end?
You mentioned a year or 2 years ago, after you read the motion for judicial notice I put on Hunter's case, that we were in, I think, the second act of Hamlet, or one of the Shakespearean plays. I remember. I wrote to be or not to be, to wear a mask or not to wear a mask, and then you riffed on that on one of the shows. So I think we're coming to the end of one of this comic tragedy. I hope if Trump wins, he'll just say everybody should read 1984 so that you know that I'm not brainwashing you.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you right up front that what Olga said about the brainwashing. In your podcast 3 or 4 years ago, you started advising all the listeners to read 1984. You saw it coming. Yeah,
we did a whole. We did actually 2 podcasts trying to get people to focus on the similarities between what Biden was doing and the Democrats and Orwell. But so what do you have to report to us?
Well, I know that more and more journalists are starting to listen now to your podcast because you have been sharing the truth and people are realizing that they were deceived and they did invert reality. And so now they're coming back and they're saying, wow, you know, the mayor actually told us all this 3-4 years ago. I just hope, because my personal interest in this is that when they talk about following the money, that Congress can open up an investigation of how many tens or hundreds of billions of dollars were lost in these 300 China-based companies that got deregistered by the SEC. They let all of these Chinese CEOs keep the money, and they don't talk about it. Senator Rubio has a bill, Senate Bill 945 and House Bill 7000. He actually refers to it as stopping the China hustle. And of course, my story at the top of the Google algorithm, if on every phone and computer on planet Earth, I think by the hand of the Lord, if anyone Googles Joe Biden China hustle. But people don't realize how much money the Chinese Communist Party stole. And so the tens of millions that they're paying the Bidens is pennies to them compared to what their party stole in this China hustle. And I hope that Congress can open, if they haven't already, an investigation into that. And that's the point I keep wanting to make.
We'll keep on top of it and see what they do.
The Senate bill, the bills, they let the remaining, and Maria Bartiromo mentioned this with Congressman Comer about a month ago. There are 5,000 Chinese companies trading in the capital markets totaling over $1 trillion. And I guess they've got to be careful because it could cause, a global catastrophe. But the bills say that these companies have to say that they're not somehow connected to the Chinese Communist Party, as these other 300 companies that got the boot were. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay. So I have some idiot who wants to know, why did you give the laptop drive to the FSB and then later to Steve Bannon? First of all, I didn't give the laptop drive to the FSB. I've never had anything to do with the FSB, and you're just propagating the lie that the 51 creeps made about Russian disinformation, which turns out to be now totally disproven.
That's what we call a bot, man.
The FSB, as I recall, isn't it the successor to the KGB? I've had nothing to do with them, and you, whatever your name is, you're probably just a big liar. I did work with Steve Bannon to get it published. Steve and I worked on a number of newspapers to publish it who wouldn't do it, including the Wall Street Journal. But the Post did, and did it completely, as did eventually the Daily Mail. And then we were censored and cut off. And so was the Post. Extraordinary. The oldest newspaper in America was cut off in what was probably the biggest election fraud in American history. But we were successful by going to what then existed outlets like this, but there weren't as many then, and then to local television stations, local radio stations, and Steve was one of our primary people, and getting the message out so people understood as best we could get to them that they were electing a traitor and a crook, and that it was all in the computer. It wasn't us. Here's Joe telling you his father's been taking bribes for 30 years, and he gets the money and gives half to his father. We got as much out as we could, despite the massive censorship and also the personal attacks, financial attacks by bar associations, all kinds of attacks on us and our reputation and families and threats and you name it. But now it's out. It's all there. It's got, without doubt, 50 prosecutable crimes against Joe. Shows that he took. It will eventually show when you see all of it. Will particularly bolstered by these people who are whistleblowers. You'll see $50 million in bribes going to Joe and his family. He is a complete whore, prostitute. But worse than that, he's a traitor because he is compromised by our biggest enemy and has done specific favors for them that no sane person would do, like giving up the Bagram Air Base or not following up on COVID or not really caring about fentanyl. It's become massive record levels under Joe the Traitor. This is a very, very bad man. And saying bad man is really an understatement. He's completely corrupted the Justice Department, for which he should never be forgiven. So I remind you that Kirk Elliott and his team are ready to help you at 720-605-3900 and tell them that Rudy sent you. R-U-D-Y. Tell them that Rudy sent you. And I don't know if you'll get better treatment. I doubt it. You'll probably get very good treatment either way. But I'll get a lot of credit, which is nice for me. And we are now in soccer time. So maybe we'll take one more call if we have one. Or I'll pick up one of these here. The whole Biden administration is corrupt. Well, I can't say that I can tell you the whole Biden administration is corrupt, but I haven't found one that I'm confident is honest. Let's put it this way. There was a person before who said that, why did Joe change his name to Joel? Joel from Jerusalem has always been Joel from Jerusalem. I've never seen him use the name Joe. And I've talked to him 100 times, both here and then for several years on the radio. And he's never been Joe. So either someone is legitimately confused or playing some kind of game. But Joel has been Joel forever. Okay.
Well, Mayor, we are in soccer time on another exciting evening.
Well,
tune in tomorrow night. Maybe we'll keep it a surprise, but we'll be at a different location.
Oh, we're moving. We're moving.
On
the
move
moving
again.
show.
We just got back from Michigan.
The moving show.
We are hitting the road.
There was a good question here. What percentage of members of Congress have financial interests in China?
Yikes! I don't even know.
Probably more. Probably more than more
than
be
zero is what it should be.
Yeah, probably more than.
The fact that it's more than zero is a problem.
Yeah. And of course, the biggest one is the traitor president. When are we going to get rid of him? I mean, if it turns out that these whistleblowers are telling the truth, we're going to impeach the attorney general. What about the president? What about the crooked? How? I know. There's this whole concern about impeachment used too much, but because it's used and misused doesn't mean it should be avoided when it is critically necessary. And we've never had, I don't think, a president that we could possibly know of that is this dishonest, it's crooked, or has warped the presidency more than this man, or sold out our country more. He operates like a traitor, puts America last, puts China first, and just so happens to have gotten a fortune from China. It is extraordinary and completely unexplainable. It will be completely unexplainable to future generations if we let this happen. We'll be called the sucker generation. We may be the only generation that leaves this country weaker than we found it if we don't wake up. Let's wake up. Country into that 24 election. Let's stay together. Please keep following us. We'll have more and more information about the things that you don't get anywhere else. We'll do the best we can to answer all of your calls. You can get me on WABCradio.com between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, every afternoon. You can get any place in the world. It's a radio station, but it's also an app. And it's online on WABCRadio.com. Just get live and you're good to go, even in Jerusalem. Same thing with this show. You go on whatever you're on right now, Facebook, Instagram, soon. Hopefully by tomorrow we'll get Instagram going. We have YouTube, Getter, Rumble, and of course Twitter, which is our big one. Twitter and Getter. So every night between 8 and 9 with a little soccer time in case you have a question that's important and you want to get it in. Okay? Don't forget, Kirk Elliott, give him a call. And don't forget our good friend, Mr. Pillows. MyPillows.com/Rudy. MyPillows.com/Rudy. Okay? God bless you. And God bless our great country, the United States of America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776. One of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.